friend Zig coming in at the top of the interview. Today I have Dreadlock Dave. Dreadlock Dave is a multi-instrumentalist who plays everything from guitar, piano, drums, bass, uke, saxophone, and plants his flag in camp bass guitar. Bass player for hire. Have bass will travel. He's the guy that hit up. Dave is he's one of those guys that just does so many different things, and I've seen him everywhere. And musically, I've played all these shows, and his bands cross paths. And this has been a really cool conversation to kind of like see his journey and where he got started, and answer some questions of, I saw you from that gig. Well, who is that? You know, try to piece together some things. This was a real cool talk. Dreadlock Dave is playing Friday, 8 p.m. virtual shows CLE. And he's also doing a live stream every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So every Tuesday you can catch Dreadlock Dave, as well as virtual shows CLE 8 p.m. this Friday. Before we get to the interview, if you like what you hear, if you can like, subscribe, or comment or rate on the podcast website, it would help all these artists get heard. And without further ado, Dreadlock Dave. Yeah, let me do that.
Actually, well,
there we go. All right.
Well, you tell me, dude. If the audio is good, then we could just go for it. If not, I could potentially send you like a microphone audio.
No, this is fine. I can hear you good.
Okay, cool.
I'm trying to. My phone's set up in a weird angle. I want to see you too. Yeah, for the last few of these, I've been doing them over the phone, and they sound like they're over the phone, but you can, they're clear, and it's, I don't know, there's a light behind me. You know what I mean? It's as good as it can be for an over-the-phone situation, and you're coming in really clear, actually, so you're good.
Okay, cool.
Some of these, some of them I've done, like, people are moving all around and stuff, and, like, the audio is wonky, but you're real clear, my friend.
Nice.
All right, the Zig At The Gig podcast. I'm hanging out here with Dreadlock Dave. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How you doing, brother?
Not bad. How's quarantine been for you?
It's been okay. I'm getting a lot of stuff done in the studio and getting tours done around the house and all that.
Nice. Yeah,
it hasn't been bad.
When I hit you up initially, you were working on a track. You said you got new solo album in the works?
Yeah, actually, I'm working on 3 different albums currently.
Nice.
Yeah. So one of them is a new Dreadlock Dave collection of tunes, and then I'm doing another album which is co-written by a friend of mine. His name's Jeff Morris, and he's just like a hobbyist guitar player. But several years ago, I demoed like 30 of his tunes for him, and he just strums the guitar and sings, but I ended up playing all the other instruments. And anyways, he's been going through a little bit of a rough patch here, and I thought it would be cool for me to I dug out all those old demos and presented them to him, to try to cheer him up. And then basically I've been I decided I took 10 of his tunes and I'm going to rework them.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
It's the Blue Lemon Project, as sung by or interpreted by Dreadlock Dave.
Oh, that's awesome. I bet you love it.
And yeah, so that's a fun little side project. And then the third project I'm working on is it's basically, quote unquote, I hate to use the term, but it's a hand-picked super group of musicians from Cleveland.
Yeah.
And it's called the Bridge Brothers.
Oh, cool.
And this is a project spearheaded by Ron Silverman, who was the original rhythm guitar player in the James Gang.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Whoa,
so
okay. Wow, man, that's a cool project. Keep going. So,
well, yeah, thanks. It is a super cool project. He left the James Gang back before they became the famous 3-piece that everybody knows, but he got out of the music business, and then has only recently, in the past several years, come back in. And this is like a bucket list project. So he gathered a bunch of tunes and picked a couple of our tunes, the individual musicians in the project, and we've been putting this together for a couple years, and we're super excited because it's about to be released here sometime in 2020.
Who else is in it?
Well, our singer is Chad Hoffman, and he's a local singer-songwriter. He does a lot of cover music, restaurant, bar, winery gigs. And then our keyboard player is Ryan Matiska, who used to play with Waterband. He's currently with John Welton. And then we have a couple studio musicians, a couple surprises that we're going to throw out there. Right. We've used a couple different musicians, actually from all over the country, on this collection of tunes. But that's the trio is the hardcore, and then we have a couple additional players that we're looking to pick up for to do local gigs or road gigs or whatever comes.
That's so cool,
so it's I'm super excited just because I've been the engineer and the co-producer, so I've got to wear a couple different hats as well as play the bass tracks on the album.
Nice. Well, in general, you wear a ton of hats all the time. Like, you're a multi-instrumentalist, and but bass is where you hold bass is your main, or at least what you've claimed to be your go-to, your favorite. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah, bass guitar is definitely my favorite instrument. It's my it's my favorite instrument. But yeah, I wear several different hats, play as many different instruments as I possibly can, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, just mix it up.
What about the bass? Is what calls to you? Why is that the favorite? The bass player on call, as you say, or bass player for call.
Yeah, bass player for hire.
I'm trying to remember.
Have bass will travel.
What is it about the bass that really stuck out to you more so than everything else? Because I've seen you play guitar and you rip on guitar.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm a bass player that plays guitar. You could tell. I mean, I could strum some chords, but yeah, thank you for that. But no, the bass guitar, I can't even tell you. Well, I can tell you why it was Gene Simmons' fault.
Sick. Yeah.
Because I was a 10-year-old kid, and I'm like, what's this? And actually, I'm a little bit too young to be in the absolute heyday of Kiss.
Yeah,
I missed it by just a few years, but I was 10 years old, and a friend of mine's older brother said, Kiss isn't cool anymore. And he gave me all of his Kiss records.
Whoa.
So I still have all that vinyl, that original vinyl that I got all those years ago. But it was like, what is that instrument that I'm hearing that's, growling and so low? And I initially I wanted to be a drummer.
Yeah.
But mom and dad wouldn't go for that. And so I ended up playing saxophone. That was my second choice.
Yeah.
But right around that same period is when I got introduced to Kiss, and then I wanted a bass guitar, and it was a few years later that I actually got one, a rental for Christmas.
Was it an electric bass, or were you doing the big band bass, upright bass when you started?
No, I stayed with saxophone, through my junior high and high school, and then I switched to sousaphone.
Okay.
In the high school marching band. But I never got into the upright or, like classical or jazz playing until I went to college. So my first bass guitar was a Cort rental, for a cheap $100 guitar, bass guitar.
Yeah.
But it was awesome because it was under the Christmas tree one year, when I was like 13 years old.
Oh man, dun 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 dun. There's some sick bass lines out of Kiss, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, Gene's fairly creative. He was a big, Paul McCartney guy, so you got to, he's not by any stretch of the imagination. The guy's not a proficient bass player.
Yeah, he's no Jaco, but
exactly right. But he wrote some cool bass lines, and he's a hell of a marketing genius. And
for sure.
What a cool gig, man.
Definitely enough to make a 13-year-old be like, that's cool. For sure.
Exactly.
That's sick, man. Your parents were pretty musical too, right?
Yeah, both my mom was they were both in the church choir growing up. But my dad, he's been singing barbershop music since he was 13 years old.
Oh, that's awesome.
So as a kid, I heard basically nothing but it was either Indians baseball game, on the radio, or it was barbershop music going in the house.
Man, that had to lay down a decent ground of harmony, or at least understanding of it for you.
Oh yeah, it's 4-part a cappella harmony. So it's like I was definitely influenced by that, and my sense of harmony, I think, was developed pretty early, and accurately just by hearing that music. I wasn't really into it. It's like, Dad's music again,
Got Kiss on the bass,
right?
Singing the bass part. Boom, boom.
Exactly.
What did he sing? What was his role in the quartet?
He was a tenor voice.
Okay.
For years and years. So he's 76 years old now and still directing.
Awesome.
He celebrated a couple years ago his 60th year directing barbershop chorus.
Wow, man, that's insane. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's like the thing about an a cappella group, just even to sing harmonies within a group of guys where they all have guitars and they're all doing their own bit, even just to sing the melody line like a third up, it's tricky, man. It's hard to do like two things. It's hard to like listen and sing up. For me, harmonies, like, I love harmonies, and I dove into them and like try to figure out how they all work, and like study music theory in college and kind of got a crash course in that. But the act of like understanding and doing for me has been super hard. So like to see someone or see someone do a barbershop quartet where they're with 4 guys with nothing but their voices, and they're able to keep in mind where they are pitch wise and play off where someone else is pitch wise. That's hard, man. That's tricky stuff.
Some of the inner lines, like the lead part is what you hear. That's just predominantly the melody.
Yeah.
But some of those inner lines, because it's a lot of 7th chords.
Yeah.
They're forming. It's a 7th chord after a 7th chord after a 7th chord. And it's so you have this melody, and in order to maintain that and make it sound the barbershop way, some of those inner lines are just very interesting and are they're not very intuitive, so you really have to concentrate and know where your part is in that structure and that harmony.
Definitely, like that. Even just harmonizing a 4-part line with the 7th involved in the chord, like there's certain melodic tendencies where the 7th has to go down or has to stay where it is. So that's a tricky racket for sure. Even though it just sounds like a boom, you know what I mean? That's some tough stuff. Wow, man.
It really is, and it's it's its own. Barbershop has its own kind of musical theory. It's not. Or just the way the voices move. So like, and it's been years since I studied classical theory in college, but it's just strange because it's one 7th chord after another 7th chord. It's just a chord based on the melody. It's really interesting music.
That's cool. So growing up around that will definitely expand your mind to those type of harmonies and how those work. Just even being around it, I think you even in growing up around a certain type of music, you just naturally pick it up a little bit. Like it just starts to linger in hold on. Can you hear me all right? Let me see if I
Okay, I can. It's a little low on my end, but it's cool.
Okay.
So if you're looking at my ear, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's good. I just want to make sure because I know I can crank it, but then I would mess up my audio of you. But growing up around a certain type of music, you just kind of naturally pick up those tendencies. You said saxophone was your second instrument?
Well, technically I played piano at age 5. I had a little ukulele too that I would strum on.
Oh, okay.
But saxophone was my instrument that I picked up, in 5th grade in the school band program.
Okay. So you started on keys in uke. Well, maybe that makes sense why bass stuck out to you. Uke's 4 strings.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't really know what I was doing. That was my first like actual instrument. I don't know where that came from or where it went, but I have a picture of myself with it. And I was actually holding it left-handed, even though I'm a right-handed player. But
Well, I mean, you're 5. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
The fact that you're picking up an instrument at 5 is pretty cool. Did you have any siblings that played music too?
Yeah, I have one brother, a younger brother, and he played a little bit, but he really never got into it. He did some. He was a drummer for a little while.
Okay.
But he never joined like the band program or the choir program, and didn't really follow through. But I do have a couple early recordings of myself jamming with my brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was cool.
Was it? Yeah, there's definitely a commitment from going to like the education route of music, like going through a choir or a band program. It's like it's a different mindset almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you went to I think you said you went to Akron or no? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I went to college. I grew up on the west side of Cleveland. I graduated from Olmsted Falls.
Oh no way! Me too.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, you're a bulldog, man.
You got it, man.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Cool.
Do you remember? Oh, what was the math teacher? There was this one math teacher who was just a crabby dude. Lanning. Do you remember that cat?
I do remember Lanning.
Oh
yes.
Man. No way.
I never had him, but yeah, I do remember him.
Oh man, that guy was grumpy.
Well, I mean, that's it's a to be a teacher, a public school teacher. I mean, holy, just underpaid and underappreciated, man.
Definitely, for sure.
So I don't know if that was that guy's problem, but
who knows? I just remember it was almost like the grumpy old dude, where it wasn't like he was. I mean, he was pretty mean, but like it was almost comical at a point where you're like, okay,
right.
That's
right
wild, man. Did you have who was the choir teacher at that point? Was it I'm trying to remember who I had. I think it was Miss Carol. I can't remember.
Well, the choir teacher, I think his name was Rabel.
Rabel. Yep, I didn't have him.
Yeah, he retired like shortly after I graduated a long time ago. So, but yeah, it was probably Mrs. Crandall.
Yeah, Crandall. That's what it was.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I had Crandall.
She was, so she was my choir teacher in like elementary or junior high.
Oh, okay.
So, and then she eventually moved to the high school, I believe.
That's where I had her, in high school. And
crazy, man.
Dude, that's such a small world. That's crazy. I didn't know you're from Olmsted. Nice.
Yeah.
Do you still live Do you still live out that way? Or where you live?
No, I live on the opposite side of the world, out in Manaway. But it's funny because my daughter went to the high school out here, and we're just beyond Aurora near Hiram. Yeah. But the high school here, like when I would walk in there, would totally remind me of the high school in Olmsted Falls. Nice. Just like, and Olmsted Falls has grown a lot since I graduated. But when I was in high school, it was like where the city meets the country. There were still farmers out there, and all that kind of stuff. So it was a cool place to grow up. It was a great experience as far as being in a public school.
Yeah, that's awesome
for me. Yeah,
I agree. I had a good experience in Olmsted, and like I agree with like that weird. It's almost like you're like not too far to the city, right? And you're far enough away. So it's a good way to be able to like, all right, I'm going to take a 25-minute drive to Cleveland, be able to go do all that stuff, and you can get back late, and like it's not that late. You're not driving hours or whatever, and you're far enough away to like, if you don't want to go anywhere and be bugged, and you can have that kind of like seclusion, you can. That's
absolutely.
Me and my girlfriend have that conversation all the time. She's like, I like the country. I'm like, I like the halfway to the country, halfway to the city.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, I mean, still, like in Olmsted Falls or out here where I live in Manaway, it's that way basically. Yeah. If you're in the suburbs of Cleveland, I mean, you could be downtown in the hustle bustle in 20 minutes or so, and then on the opposite end, you could be out in the middle of nowhere in the country, you know. I love Northeast Ohio. I've been fortunate to travel a lot of different places, and I can never leave here, you know, permanently.
That's awesome. It's kind of like a segue you can get anywhere. Where have you traveled?
I've actually traveled to 49 states.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I've been all over except for Hawaii.
That one's a little tough to get to.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list. But then I've been to Europe several times, South America once, and you know I've done Mexico and Canada. But traveling in Europe and playing music was super cool.
Now, with all those travels, has it been tied with like gigs, or is it just or has it been most of them?
It's half and half. Like
nice.
I was fortunate to travel just as a kid a lot.
Oh, cool.
With the family, and then you know the other half has been playing music. I've been all over the country playing music, and as I said, in Europe and South America.
That's so cool, man. What outlet was that? Like, I know you, just like how you play all these instruments and wear all these hats with producer and like you play in a bunch of different projects as well. Like I tried to find a list of all the projects you play with, and I know of a few just from knowing you, but I couldn't find like a clear list. But I've seen a bunch of different things. What projects did you go to Europe and South America?
Yeah, that was a project called The Answer Generation, and it was a positive, Christian-based rock band that I was involved with for several years, and I kind of got roped into the gig, but it ended up allowing me to travel, you know, many different places. And play with some fantastic, top-notch, world-class musicians.
Wow! And were you bass?
Yeah, I play bass on those gigs.
Wow, man! How'd they rope you in there?
It was funny. It was really funny because I'm a spiritual guy. But I'm definitely not affiliated with any specific religion. And there was a time where this was years ago, a decade ago or so, where the gigs were just slowing down or a couple projects ended. And I was just like, I'm going to look at the Craigslist and see what's going on. And there was someone in the neighborhood over here that, or close by on my side of town. And they were like, hey, Christian band looking for a bass player. I'm like, well, what the hell? I'll give it a shot and see what's up with just because it was so close by. And, so anyways, it ended up working out. I ended up hitting it off with the producer, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And I've done many different gigs with that group of people over the years. So it's been interesting to say the least.
Wow, that's awesome. I think that's important. I think it's important to be able to, as a musician, to be able to fit in any place that you're needed. If it's on bass, if it's on guitar, if it's singing. It was almost like to really make this work as a career type mindset, you got to be able to flex and bend into any musical outlet you can. And I think you do an excellent job at that. And you've always been on it. Like I ran into you at that meeting at the Bop Stop, and you're all over, man.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, really, that's what it takes. I mean, I've been lucky. It's a lot of luck, but it is definitely a lot of persistence and hard work to be I'm approaching 30 years being a self-employed musician in Northeast Ohio.
Nice.
And but yeah, it's you gotta wear a lot of different hats, but more importantly, on your specific chosen instrument or instruments, you got to be proficient, and the more different vehicles that you can plug yourself into, the more success you're going to find. And more importantly than that, it's really all about the hang.
Being able to hang?
Just being able to hang, man. Like, because if you're an asshole, you're not. That gig's not going to stick around for too long.
For sure.
Like, And you may have heard other musicians, in the past. I mean, like famous musicians talk about, they'd rather have someone who's a little less proficient on their instrument that's super cool to hang out with.
Definitely. Definitely.
So, it's a balance, but you just gotta persist and do the best you can.
Was there a lesson or a teaching moment where you're like, that came up, not the hang part, but like the being able to be flexible? Was it like because just from the beginning, you've started on uke and piano and you went to study jazz, you played sax, so you've hit both kind of like the educated route with multiple instruments, like bouncing from string to brass. But was there like a lesson, right? Like maybe like when you were taking music serious, that was like, I have to be able to adapt to any type of situation that stuck out to you? Or is it just a mindset you kind of went into music knowing?
Yeah, I can't really say, maybe pinpoint a specific moment where I came to that realization. I think it's probably more like I just began to understand that over time.
Gotcha.
And I mean, one of my hobbies, of course, probably all of our hobbies as musicians, are watching interviews and reading autobiographies and, just checking out the story of musicians who, were influenced by. But so I think it was a combination of that, just realizing that, if I can read, a bass piece, I could play, anywhere that would require that, but also like being, studying different genres of music. And, also I've been teaching now for almost 30 years, private, specifically bass lessons, but I've taught also woodwinds and theory and nice. Different, other different, private instruction. But I think just, trying to help a student find their way and utilize their specific skill set, like what they're naturally talented at, even though it may be the same instrument, two different students, approach it completely different just because of their natural talent. So I've always tried to encourage and direct that natural talent that someone may have so they can, further progress on their instrument, where as opposed to, like teaching a certain through a certain system. It's kind of like an ebb and flow, and find your spot, which is kind of like the same thing when you're, trying to widen your girth as a musician, and your experiences and the types of music and the people you play with.
Definitely, I agree. I think every person approaches everything different, and like the more you dive into one instrument, you're like, whoa, Victor plays like this on bass and Jaco plays like that, but then Flea's playing like this, and everyone's going to hear and understand certain things better and execute those lines or rhythms or melodies easier than someone else is. Like, I'm a music teacher. I teach at a school for kids with autism. I do an adapted music course. So
awesome.
Before I called you, I was working on, since the quarantine thing, so we're doing all virtual stuff, and I've been re-recording lessons and like doing since I can't get instruments to them. We've been learning like about music from around the world, which is something I like to do anyway. So I was already had this curriculum for myself. I'm like, all right, I'm not doing anything. I've set up this schedule. I'm going to study some flamenco, study some Brazilian guitar, study some, and try to figure out just little things that click and see how things work. And that, to me, that gets me super amped up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned how to make a chorus out of my guitar.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And thanks for teaching those young kids.
Likewise, man, you're doing it. We're both doing it.
Right on, bro. Right on.
So you studied jazz, right?
Yeah, I went through the jazz program at the University of Akron. I didn't graduate, but
You went through it, man.
I went through it, and then I took a year also in my early 20s. I did the jazz program at Tri-C at
cool.
Cogwood Community College here in Cleveland.
Nice. That's a good program. Did you study Did you study with Frazier?
No, I know Bob.
Okay,
but,
Bob's the man.
Yeah, it was. First of all, it is a fantastic program down there. It's to me, I don't understand why that place isn't buzzing 24/7, because there's right down on 30th and Woodland in downtown Cleveland. It's a world-class production studio down there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantastic. But their music program specifically is a feeder program into Berklee Conservatory of Music in Boston. Yep. So you can go and do 2 years and then enter as a junior in Berklee, and you're going to pay, just like pennies on the dollar for your first 2 years by doing it at Tri-C. And the staff there is world class. When I was there, Ernie Krivda was heading up the program, and I took piano lessons with Joe Hunter, who is just fantastic. At the time, there wasn't an in-house bass teacher, so they were actually bringing in Ralph Armstrong from Detroit. And Ralph Armstrong currently is with the Funk Brothers, which is the whole Motown gang. And he played with the Mahavishnu Orchestra. He toured with Frank Zappa, Jean-Luc Ponty, and this guy would drive in from Detroit to give like a half a dozen of us bass lessons. And it was just, it was super cool. I mean, this cat has played with my heroes, and so it was an interesting semester, to say the least.
That's insane. That's super cool. Did he have crazy stories? He's like, one time I was hanging out with Zappa.
Yeah, he shared a few crazy stories with me. So
was it? I think there's a certain merit to someone who teaches in any capacity. Like for me, I feel like I can't just teach music. I got to be doing it. I got to be playing it. I got to be learning it. If I would just teach it, I feel like there's a merit that's not there. And it sounds like someone like that he's been through it and he's still teaching, So I think that's I think that maybe that's a thing I'm not just thinking about, but that's insane. What a cool like man, what a cool guy to get lessons from.
Yeah, it was a great experience. So then I ended up teaching at Tri-C. I just finished up my 10th year teaching. I teach one class a week. Yeah, but it's the vintage rock band class.
Oh, cool.
And it's super cool because it's basically comprised of students who have never played in a band or always wanted to play in a band, or maybe they played in the band when they were, a 15-year-old kid. And the average age overall in the last 10 years has been about 60 to 65 years old.
Nice.
So it's basically rock school for adults, or like a weekend warrior program,
Oh, that's cool.
But we meet every Tuesday. Of course, we're on hiatus right now.
Yeah.
But we meet every Tuesday down there at the Metro campus, and super cool. Just great to be with these people and these students, and we're learning classic rock tunes or blues jams or whatever, and then some of the students have actually started to write their own original material after being in the class for a couple semesters.
That's awesome.
It's super cool, and then we get to utilize the recording studio down there as well. So it's like a world-class studio, and these folks coming in, playing their demos, and it's just a great time.
That's all. There's something around being like someone doing it for the first time, being so amped up and so nervous. You know what I mean? That's so cool.
Oh yeah.
And I think in turn that keeps it fresh and exciting for you as the teacher, because you always get to experience how exciting it is and live in that moment. That's awesome.
No doubt. It's part of the reason why I teach and why I love to teach is exactly that. It keeps you young and fresh in a way, because you do see that spark, And that spark, number one, could come from like, if I'm teaching a 15-year-old bass student and he brings in like this music that he's so pumped up on that like I've never heard of before, it's like a brand new thing for me. So I get to see, this kid pumped up, and and then it works the same way when a couple years ago, I'll never forget. It was this 15-year-old kid comes in, and he says to me, "I want to learn every Pink Floyd bass line that was ever recorded."
Oh,
so
nice.
It's like, it's like this kid who's just starting out, and he's so pumped up about this music that I'm familiar with.
That's awesome.
And like, it's like almost reliving that excitement over again. So it's, I don't know, the teaching in a way is like a fountain of youth.
Well said. Well said. When did the band start? Like, when did you start playing in original projects and stuff? So, like, were you playing in high school? Were you playing in some Olmsted bands?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah? Nice.
My first paid gig was with a garage band, my first band in Olmsted Falls.
Nice.
We had our debut performance at the North Olmsted Rec Center back in '84.
Yeah. Wow, cool. What was the project? Yeah. Anything that lived on, or was it just...
Well, what's really funny is that, okay, we played that one gig. It was probably a summer worth of, rehearsing in our friend's parents' basement. And then we played the one gig, and then we broke up, and we like fell apart. And it was 27 years later, whoa, the band got back together and played our second gig. So, but we've been in contact for the last several years, and we've been trying to do an annual show every year, whether it's at its corner bar or whatever, just to get together. But it's
that's awesome.
The name of the band was Paradox.
Paradox. No way! Oh, so awesome.
So, as generic as that name is, yes.
Yeah, but the reason that's so awesome is the second band I played in was fronted by this girl, my girlfriend in high school, and she named the band Paradox. At Olmsted Falls, and we played the talent show or some shit.
That's great, dude. Well, I think anybody who's like been in a rock band has been in a band or knows someone who's been in a band named Paradox.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Cool. What was the first project when you really started to take music seriously that really kind of picked up? First original project that you were in that really started to do well?
Well, that was Paradox, man.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, that was my first paid gig. I think I made,
that's pretty well. Yeah, you're doing pretty good.
I think I made $50.
Nice.
And that wasn't for the whole band, man. I think we almost made like $200 our first gig.
Woo.
And yeah, right. And we actually had our demo tape played on the Bill Peters Metal on Metal show.
Oh, nice.
On I was in the marching band, and I couldn't go down to the station because it was a Friday night. Of course, I was marching sousaphone in the football game. So my guitar player and my singer drove down to John Carroll, which was a hike back, coming from Olmsted Falls. Sure. As I think I lent him my $500 piece of shit car to go down there, and. But they dropped the tape off to Bill Peters, and sure enough, he played that thing on the radio.
Sick. That's
So
awesome.
that was super cool. And I mean, really, I was serious from day one. With my first rock band. I mean, I thought in my head I was auditioning for Kiss. So it was like I was serious right out of the gate. But I had a few different bands, each one of my original projects over the year got at least a little bit of traction. We always got out of the basement. We always had some cool gigs and actually made a little bit of money.
Nice. I think getting out of the basement's the big part.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting the set together, getting into the scene. Like it's a big deal.
You know, and it was different. You know, it was a little different. I think it's a healthier scene today.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's more perhaps more segmented, and you know, I mean, there's just so many different things going on and things that people can do. But I mean, I'm just blown away by the talent of younger people, and you know, the information that's out there. It's really, I mean, there's so much information. It's pretty easy to put a band together, you know, and it's like you can find all the information and you can record. If you got an iPhone, you can record yourself. You got a studio in your hand, and you know, like I don't know. It's just I think it's a fertile atmosphere for music and original music, specifically in Cleveland. But yeah, I think it's cool.
I definitely agree. I think this whole situation we are in now would be a lot more. I don't know what the word would be. Without the internet, a lot more shitty. Without being able to jump in the basement, turn on the computer, and track a record, or you know what I mean, being able to hop on the phone, pull up the app and record a record and send it to your friend, and like the amount of access everyone has at their will has to make this scene more, or has to just make a scene in general more connective and more like at least understood, maybe. But I think that's sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It's back in the day, I mean, 20 years ago, you know, I got on my first computer and put my first original music up on MySpace.
Nice.
And so, and almost immediately what I recognized was the fact that some person commented, you know, like, hey man, I really love your tunes. And I've tracked the person down, at least where they were contacting me from. And it was some like war-torn country. Whoa. I don't know if it was in the Middle East or where it was, but I'm imagining like, you know, burnout buildings and tanks rolling down the street. And he's like listening to my music, you know, through the World Wide Web, which was, you know, I mean, just incredible to me. And it really kind of fostered my belief that, you know, the internet is really just, it's connecting people, as you said. It's more so, you know, now than ever before in history. People all over the world of like minds are gathering together, and I feel like, you know, I'm an optimist, but the great majority of humanity wants the same thing and are good people. And so I just think that, you know, we're at a dawn of this incredible age, and it's super exciting to me.
Well said. I agree. Definitely, I agree with the optimist outlook. I think it's a lot better way to look at things. It's a biological, what's the word I'm looking for? Benefit, to be able to look at stuff in a positive way. It makes everything way more exciting. And
yeah. Well, you got to know the negative to know the positive, but you know what I mean? It's like, I choose positivity.
Well, definitely balance is key in everything. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Jump for a second. When I first saw you play, I believe it was at the Sly Fox with the Water Band. When did the Water Band come around?
Water Band, did we play? I don't know if we ever actually played the Sly Fox as Water Band, but
it may have been you, and they're like, "This is Dreadlock Dave from the Water Band," and like in my mind, I memorized it as Dreadlock Dave and the Water. Yeah, I mean, I could have.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I used to do a jam night over there, so
the Wednesday.
I was like, the Wednesday. I would be a guest bass player at points, and so maybe that was, I don't know if that was the night, but anyways, the Water Band started right around 2000, and we had a good run for about 5 years, and then my partner decided take a leave of absence.
Okay.
And so we split, and then we did another run between 2008 and 2012 where we were really pumping it up. I mean, we became basically kind of like the house band at Nelson Ledges Quarry Park. Yep. And we were doing a lot of touring, East Coast and Midwest, all over the jam band circuit. And so kind of really pumped it up there. And then we stopped playing in 2012 again. We just, decided to split. And then back in November here, this last year, 2019, we did a reunion show at the Beachland Ballroom, which we sold the place out, which was
nice,
incredibly awesome, and just so cool to see a lot of old fans and even some new fans after not playing for like 7 years.
Yeah, it's interesting how like when you record something, and if the scene is prominent enough and you put it out, how this kind of, if you let it wait and it, I guess in the pun, waters it and like starts to grow this whole like new scene and sprout these new like fans and roots out of something that may have been what you thought left dormant, but like has been picked up by so many. Like,
yeah, it's kind of grown just organically. I mean, that's the way it's always been. But even since, I maintain the Water Band Facebook page, and we've just continued to gain fans.
That's awesome.
Just year after year. So it's really strange how that works.
The jam band scene's something different, man. I tell you, they like once you get involved and once people start digging it and start showing up to stuff, they latch on in a good way.
Yeah, it's a strong like family vibe, which comes from that whole Deadhead scene. That's Jerry and the Grateful Dead are kind of the pinnacle of that whole scene, and it's that vibe has definitely carried on.
Was it when you guys would tour? Was it the same experience in other states?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I don't know. That peaked. All right. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. It's the same kind of vibe. I mean, and again, it was always like, it's a tie-dye scene, man.
Gotcha.
It's that's where those people are at, and of course, there's a lot of variance, and the jam band scene has grown, and the diversity within the jam band scene now is fantastic. But it's always got that hippie vibe.
For sure. So, what was it? It was more before? Would you say it was more kind of seclusive in a way, where it was like, how has it grown? That's a.
Oh, you mean the jam band scene?
Yeah. Like, has it grown band-wise or music-wise?
I think music-wise, just the different genres that are now. I mean, there's all this cross-pollination between, you got like on one end bluegrass and that style of music, and that runs all the way through, and the Grateful Dead is somewhere in the middle. And then you move to the other side and you're getting into like ambient and fusion and, like just crazy, skill level stuff. Not that the bluegrass is the opposite of that, but
it's the same thing, just different tone.
Yeah. But just all these different genres that are out there.
Oh, that's cool.
And, it's super cool because years ago it was when we first started, it was all like Grateful Dead type bands at these festivals.
Okay, that makes sense then.
So it seemed like that just kept growing and growing, and then you had things like Bonnaroo, and would just cross pollinate, and they'd bring all these, just a huge variety of entertainment and acts in, which I think is super cool.
No, I agree. I think it's awesome. Everyone's music's got room to grow and should be able to fill any stage.
Yeah, right.
When did
the jam band scene they seem to be more open,
100%. I agree.
It's like they'll listen to bluegrass or they'll listen to some ambient, or they'll, even pushing the boundaries of heavy metal, in that scene.
Definitely, like bands like Clutch and like like it's weird.
Oh yeah.
Jam bands, the crowd and like the bands that fall into it are so vast. It's almost like to label the band itself, if they don't fall under the category jam band, would be hard. If that makes sense.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call a Clutch, or I don't. Not that I don't know if they fall into that category, but they jam and they're heavy. Like,
Yeah, no, they totally jam. I'm a fan, man.
nice. Likewise.
Yeah.
When did Stoned and Beautiful come along? Because I remember the first gig we played. I think I played a bass. I was playing bass. I totally get the mindset of jumping from any instrument and being able to fit in any group. Because for me, I was all hip to the Bruce Lee philosophy of the be like water, right? So I guess
right on.
And like that's been my kind of mindset within approaching music. And I think the first gig we played together I was playing in a band called The Few and the Far, which became Hamilton Handshake. And it was Stoned and Beautiful, and we played at this place in Akron that was like a metal bar. I can't remember the name of the spot. It was like the place had a bunch of metal, like in the venue. I don't know if it was a metal bar.
Oh yeah, that's the
yes, you know
the
it.
Empire.
Yes. And I remember that was the first time I saw you guys, and then we played, and like, but your name was always floating around. And my band, I play in a band called Sea Level. And, Wanyama, I forget something, or maybe I've seen you play with Wanyama at some point as Stoned and Beautiful, and we were trying to get on it. I can't remember. But
yeah, did you guys? I mean, I think Sea Level was. You guys were potentially on a Waterfest bill. How far does that go back?
Sea Level, me and Cody have been doing that since like 2009. No, with 2010. So that could have been. I definitely probably sent you stuff.
Yeah. Like Sea Level, like letter C, right?
Yep, letter C dash.
Yes. Yeah, right. Okay. I'm I try to keep my ear to the ground on the Northeast Ohio scene, of course, but
and you do.
So yeah, I'm familiar with the band, and I think yeah. Well, so yeah. Anyways, interesting, but yeah, Stoned and Beautiful came out of Water Band. Our last guitar player in Water Band is Josh Laird, and Josh Laird is the singer songwriter of in Stoned and Beautiful, and Josh and I hit it off. I mean, he came from the Jimi Hendrix school, and like a lot of guitar players do, but he was really hot on that at the time. And I've always wanted to do like a Jimi Hendrix style tribute. Actually, I came up with the concept of Creamy Ray Hendrix, which is a nod to three of my favorite power trios, being Cream, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and Double Trouble, and Jimi Hendrix.
Awesome.
But so Creamy Ray Hendrix, we started putting the song list together, and of course there's a Jimi Hendrix quote, not necessarily stoned but beautiful.
Okay, now it's clear. I gotcha.
So
nice.
So it was like that's where that came from, and we were hanging out one night, being stoned and beautiful, and we're like, hey, that's a cool name, and we were just it was just like ha, let's, and that was the name of going to be the name of the cover band. And then when Water Band ended, we were starting to pick up momentum as that band, and so we just carried on with it and took it a different direction. I basically pushed Josh up front. He's a fantastic songwriter and singer, and I wanted to have a vehicle where I wasn't like the main focus. I just wanted to play bass and jam with one of my great friends and great drummer, John Smith. So we put that trio together, and then it's just kind of stuck. And here we are. I don't even know. It's like 7 or 8 years later.
Yeah. Awesome. Now that I'm thinking about it, I used to go to the Sly Fox Jam Night a lot. And like,
right on.
I think when I first saw you play, he was there. Josh was there too.
That's a possibility, yeah.
And like I was like, that's why the Water Band thing stuck in my mind, because it was the two of you, and he was the new guy to the Water Band, and he was just shredding. And I was like, oh, My high school brain couldn't take it. I was like, what am I witnessing? This is awesome.
Nice. That's very, that's probably where it was. That makes sense.
Cool, man. So yeah, geez, that's all coming back to me now. I'm kind of glad I'm resolving all this stuff. Wow, cool. So have you checked out any of these virtual shows?
Yes. I couldn't tune in last week. I was in the middle of a session, but I caught the first one.
The first one with Gall and M. Moody and
yes,
I can't remember, Douglas.
Was it Douglas?
I think,
or maybe I thought it was the first one. It was with who was it? Now, see, I'm confusing virtual shows because I've been trying to tune into a lot of them.
The stream scene, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's happening.
No, it's super cool. I mean, just what a great venue, considering the circumstances. And Michelle has done a fantastic job with this. I think she's spearheading the program. She's been my contact for this specific show, but all those people that are working on this, there's a lot of movers and shakers in Cleveland, and I'm just happy to be part of the scene. And I would like to be more involved in that, actually. And it's funny because this year I had some personal changes happen. And I had projected myself going and hitting like every jam night in Cleveland, going to check out some, because I've been doing a lot of like happy hour gigs. So I'm like, all right, after this gig and after this gig, I'm going to this club and this club. That's and checking out this band and this band. And I had all these plans that I was like, man, this is going to be great because I'm really going to jump back in and get into the scene and really see what's happening, on a physical standpoint. I mean, of course, I've been keeping my eyes, on the interwebs for years, but like just to get out and hang with people and play. And unfortunately, we've come to this.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do that once we get through this craziness that we're all dealing with right now.
That's awesome. Well, you're jumping in it, man. You've always been in it. Like,
yeah, I guess. I mean, I have, but like to get out there physically, like, like, I mean, instead of, because I've been out there playing gigs, but like I haven't been out like cavorting and hanging and jamming, and that's what I was really, really looking forward to. But again, I hope that can happen for all of us very soon.
Likewise. And I think it's important. I think you got to get out there and you got to play and you got to hang and you got to jam. Like, that's all part of the thing. Like, a lot of people will remember the guy that came out to support their Mike Night, and who's also playing at the dog bar. What's the dog bar? Terrestrial Brewery. Like, I know. Yeah. Me and you run that one a lot. Like, I see. Oh,
I love that place, man.
That place is rad. They're so cool.
And their beer is fantastic.
Yeah. Man, what was I going to say? Oh, but anyway, yeah, virtual shows, man. That is something. Like, I did the second one, and like, nice. I think because you're playing Friday, 8 p.m. Who else is on the bill? It's the guy from I had his name.
This is Zach Friedhoff from Akron and Jen Maurer from Akron.
That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, from Momojo.
Was it
and many other different projects.
Yeah, no, she's hit a lot of things up. She's ran a lot of things. But when it's such a cool experience to be like, because I've seen you do some pretty cool live streams. You did that Jam Turtle TV. Yeah, that was real cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
How'd that pan out? I had questions about, because you were in your spot and that guy was in his spot. And somehow he was able to like crisscross you into the same stream.
Yes. Well, I would implore you to check out Jam Turtle TV on Facebook, and David Sullivan, who is doing that. He's been doing a series called Jam Turtle for a few years, where he had this Akron basement spot. And he would have acoustic type acts. It wasn't like, anybody was plugged into, a recording studio or specific direct line. It was like whatever you sounded like in the room is basically what he captured. But it was super cool, and organic and garagey. But he had some touring. He's had a lot of different acts from Northeast Ohio and some touring acts come in. But he's also a mover and a shaker in town. And if you need any video work, he's the guy to call. And also, he's trying to do this this stream, kind of variety show where he plays some of the material that he's pre-recorded and then interacts live with the guest, and then the guest can play.
Yeah, so I thought that was so cool. Like after that, I went and followed the Jam Turtle's page and was checking out what he did. But I thought just the idea of taking stuff that you've recorded and someone like him who's captured all these bands, I didn't know he did that. I didn't know that was like a kind of a bit he did where he recorded all these people coming through town. But no, that was real cool. And like the sound he got from you being wherever you were, your place, and him being wherever he was amazing.
Yeah, there was a little technical glitch, and I wasn't real happy with the sound that came off of my end, but that was through Zoom.
Oh, okay.
And there was some, I think there's a little bit of compression issue with Zoom. And so it's
one thing that virtual shows have been working out is like if you run like a piano, there's so much frequency coming of sound, it compresses to nothing.
Right.
But,
so we're all on this learning curve, I've seen just like world famous musicians have the same technical issues as everybody else. It's like they're not sure if they're live yet, and
you're right.
Sometimes it sounds like garbage, and it's just like, and we're all on this learning curve together. So
yeah, it's kind of cool. It puts everyone at the same spot in some way. Then watching everyone start over again, and it's exciting. It's exciting, and I think whatever's going to come out is going to be super creative, and more people are just going to blossom out of this situation.
Yeah, agreed. Well, actually, I'm doing a live stream, my own live stream every Tuesday night at 7 p.m.
Nice.
But tomorrow night I'm doing. I have a drummer friend of mine who actually emailed me a drum track that I'm going to play along with live in the studio. So it's pre-recorded on his end, but it's still kind of cool to present that interaction in a live setting.
Was it? Well, you know what I'll do? I'll put this episode out Tuesday morning so we can use it to push your stream and the virtual show.
Oh, nice, cool. Well, I do it every Tuesday, so even if it's later, they could catch me on a following Tuesday.
That's awesome. It's a good idea. It's a good idea to do it. Like I feel like so many people are doing it too. The limit it and having it in one spot. When everyone's not kind of doing like a Tuesday night. Not too many people are fighting for that spot. Or maybe Friday at 8 p.m. It's a little different, but
exactly.
But I guess it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean?
Well,
night's good.
That was kind of my thinking. It's like hey, and Tuesday actually. Normally I was in my rock school class on Tuesday nights, but so that was totally open. No, nothing else to do. And as you just mentioned, I think. A lot of people are like, what? They don't know what day it is anyway. So,
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. Well, hey, this has been awesome. You feel good about this?
Oh, Dave, I really appreciate you doing this and taking the time to promote the virtual Cleveland shows and just you yourself being out there and moving it and shaking it, my friend.
Well, thanks, man. This is fun. Like, I've been having a lot of fun getting to talk to people I normally wouldn't get to hang out for an hour with. You know what I mean? Like, this has been really cool for me. And I've been excited to talk to you because we've ran the circle a lot. So
Totally, man.
Cool, man. Well, Friday, 8 p.m., virtual shows wherever you guys are at. And Tuesday, 7 o'clock, every Tuesday, wherever you guys are at on Facebook. You can catch Dreadlock Dave. All right, Dave. I'm going to sign it off. Thanks for hanging out, my friend.
Dave, I appreciate it. Take care, brother. Peace and blessings, my friend.
Peace.